In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to create some fully procedural rock objects for use in your 3D environments in Blender. I'll be sharing some of the settings required for random rock generation in Blender, and be using Blender's geometry nodes to create these. So the first thing you want to do is go into your geometry nodes tab. Maybe organize the windows better. And what you want to do is select the cube, go to new and create a new geometry node setup. Then first thing is to disconnect the group input from the output, and we want to of course visualize our rocks, so we're going to use a volume cube node. Volume cube. Now what you want to do is actually create a sphere inside the cube. So to do that, we're going to use the sign distance function, and which requires a length operation. If we go to Shift A, search for vector map, we can find the length and plug that into the density. So what you want to do is get position vector. Position. Plug that in, and you want to create the sphere. You're going to get another vector map node and look for the add, and what you want to do is actually make this as subtract. So you want to subtract 1. As you can see, this makes a sphere inside the cube. So what you want to do is actually invert this, and to invert it, you're going to duplicate this and multiply the value with -1. So when you do that, you have a sphere. So the next thing to do is distribute points within this sphere. So you're going to search for the distribute points in volume node. So plug that in, and you can see we have our points here, and we want to plug the density into the input, and we want to also create a node group out of this. So Control G, group the nodes together, and disconnect this. So now we can control the density. Let's set this to 25. Now we have a bunch of points within our sphere. So once we've done this, we are also going to connect the seed so we can randomize this. And as you can see, we can randomize these points. So the next thing to do is to use the convex hull node to join these points together into a mesh. Then you want to subdivide this mesh to detail the rock. So you want to subdivide mesh. There you go. And we can connect this to the input. And once we've done that, we can set the mesh subdivisions to 6. And if we go into wireframe, you can see that the mesh is being subdivided, so to 6. And we can actually rename some of these nodes. So let's change this to mesh subdivisions. And change the density to be face density. That's how many faces are in this. So the next thing to do is smoothing. We want to smooth out this mesh so it doesn't look so rigid like this. And to do that, we're going to use the set position node. And we're going to use a repeat zone also. And we're going to put the set position in there. Now to do that, we're going to also use the edge vertices node. So we want to find the average of these edges, of the position of these edges. So to do that, you want to add them together, so vector map. Add these nodes together, add the positions together. And then divide them by 2. Divide by 2. And then you can connect this up to the input and connect the input to the output as well as to the position node. So that's the smoothing done. We can actually group these together, so Control G to group them together, and we have some mesh smoothing. So we can name this smoothing. So to actually get this is we need to connect this up. Connect the iterations and connect to the output. So there we go. We have smoothing. Now to control the iterations, we want to connect this up to the input again. So let's rename this to smoothing or mesh smoothing. Smoothing. And then we want to plug this in to smooth out the mesh. And let's test it out. So we can set the smoothing to say 50, and you can see that the mesh is beginning to smooth out. And let's set it to 100. Yeah, to smooth out even more. So we also want to use to improve the smoothing, because as you can see the mesh here. So you use a set shade smooth node. Set shade smooth and connect it up to improve the quality of the smoothing. So the next step is to add some noise, and the noise will make the rock look more realistic. So noise texture, and you also want another set position node. So set position and plug the color up to the position, which of course it messes it up here, but we can actually fix that if we get another position node and actually multiply the position by the noise. So multiply vector map, multiply. So there we go. We can control the noise now. And to do that, we're going to first let's reduce it a bit so we can get a better look at this. I'm going to set it to like 1. Okay, there we go. So let's connect it up. The scale, the detail, roughness, lacunarity, and distortion. So now we can control the noise. And we can actually rename these. So let's just rename these for clarity. Noise scale. Noise detail. Noise roughness. Okay, there we go. And now, if we play around with these settings, we can increase the detail all the way up to 15 to get a more detailed mesh. And of course, we have to reduce the smoothing on this. Let's turn this to 10. Now you can see that the mesh is more detailed. It still doesn't look that realistic, so let's actually turn this up to 50. And we can change the seed maybe to see some different results. Change the roughness to make it smoother or less smooth, depending on what we want. And one more thing is we can also change the scale. So if we go to transform, get a transform geometry node, put this here, plug in the scale. We can also play with the scale. So value. So if you wanted to change the size of your rock, you can. Another thing is if you wanted to add some texture, some shading to make this look more realistic, you would go into, you would search for a set material node, and you can choose a material to set it to, and there you go. That's how you make procedural rock in Blender. Now, if you follow this tutorial, you might decide to play around with some of these settings, which I would encourage, because you can get very different results depending on what settings you use. So yeah, it's also worth reducing the polygon count of your mesh, and this to improve performance. If we go into wireframe mode, you can see the number of polygons here. So to reduce this, we go and search for the decimate modifier and set this to 0.008. And as you can see, this reduces the number of polygons to improve performance. And once you've added some realistic textures and shading, then that's it. That's how you generate a procedural rock in Blender. Thanks for watching.